What's going on, everyone? My name is SiahZ and welcome back to another build guide video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys our insane cold damage ranger build. Now, we are absolutely blasting through maps. We have great survivability thanks to us having around an 8,000 energy shield based pull to play with 1,500 HP. We are perma-freezing packs, mobs, pinnacle bosses, shattering enemies, and doing millions of DPS per crits. This build is a ton of fun and I'm absolutely loving it, and I think you guys will as well. Also, if you guys find this video helpful or you like what I'm doing on my channel, if you guys do wish to support me, the best way to do that is by hitting that like and subscribe button, and it really does help with the YouTube algorithm as well. I also should be live right now streaming the build on YouTube. The link for that will be in the description as well as the comment section of the video. Alright, let's get straight into the build. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the gems. Now, we are running Shattering Concoction, which means you'll have to go into the Pathfinder Ascendancy instead of the Deadeye, but the skill is absolutely amazing. I mean, you can see the tooltip DPS is 400k without considering any of the increases or the crits or anything like that into play. We do an amazing amount of DPS with it, perma-freezing, shattering, and it's honestly a blast to actually play around. Now, the skills we're using for it is Scatter Shot. This gives it basically just +2 to projectiles, which allows overlapping to do even more DPS. Martial Tempo to increase the attack speed. This really helps get more of them out, and it feels a lot better while mobbing as well with this support. Cold Mastery for +1 level into it to give it more DPS, and then Super Critical to give you more crit damage since we are playing with crit build and we have a high crit chance with the skill. We pull the tooltip out, we can see we have 566% increased critical damage bonus, which is insane, and we have about a 42% crit chance with the skill without factoring in our cast on crit Hive Winner as well. Now, the skill does use mana charges to actually throw out, which we can easily kind of go in and cover the cost of it by getting it on our belt, our tree and Pathfinder Ascendancy and other ways, and we can pretty much use the skill infinitely and not really have to worry about mana charges, especially while mobbing and we're killing enemies as well. But we're going to be using Hypothermia. This basically just curses enemies to have reduced cold resistance, which is about 35% right now with the level that I have. So it's absolutely amazing to run, and this gives us a lot more DPS. Now, we are running Cursed Ground, which basically just allows this to be a kind of AoE instead of being like a mark or whatever you want to call it. And any enemies in this AoE will actually get cursed, so it's really nice there to throw on bosses. And since we perma-freeze them, we can just kind of throw this down, freeze the boss, and then we'll get all that free DPS and that reduced cold resistance from Hypothermia. But we're also running Heightened Curse to get increased effect of it, and then Magnified Effect for more AoE as well. Now, we are running the Lightning Warp Ball Lightning combo. Basically, we're running this for Shocked Ground. So we throw out our Ball Lightning and we Lightning Warp on top of it, and we create this Shocked Ground, which allows us to take advantage of like weapon swapping and stuff like that on the tree to get even more magnitude of Shocked Ground, which we're about a 57% right now, which gives us a lot more increased damage against the enemy. So for Lightning Warp, we're running Persistence to have a more duration on that Shocked Ground. We're running Overcharge to have increased magnitude of Shocked once we actually inflict Shocked, which is really nice, and then Lightning Mastery for +1 level on the skill. Ball Lightning is just Arcane Tempo and Acceleration to have more cast speed and more projectile speed. Since the skill is pretty slow and it has a slow cast time to it, this does help out. Then running Escape Shot just as kind of our get out of jail free card if we do get body blocked, but I'm looking into changing this into other things, but right now I'm not really too sure, so that's why I just have it socketed just for a free movement skill if we do need to use it. Then we're running Sniper's Mark. This gives us a ton more critical damage bonus on the enemy, and since we have such a high crit chance, we're like 80-90% or more with Hive Winner, critical weakness, max stacked. So we are running this. We're basically taking effective at 100% of the time, and we get a lot more DPS because of it. We're running Ingenuity on it for increased cooldown recovery rate, Profusion with chance to get an additional charge, and since we're running Second Wind where we do have a charge, we basically can kind of get more charges back and per chance if we use and stuff like that, and allows us to basically throw it on an enemy, crit, throw it on an enemy, crit, etc. You guys kind of get the idea and gist. We are running Grim Feast again because this allows us to double our ES, and we have about 3,500, so we can get up to 7k while mapping, which is huge. And then, we can go ahead and take effect with like Chaos Inoculation and stuff like that later down the line. Once we get more ES and a better way to really recover it and sustain it. But right now, having this with our 1,300 health, we are really good and tanky, and we don't really die that much while doing breaches and maps and pinnacle bosses and stuff like that. Then we're running Herald of Ice to help with the AoE of the build, to clear and kind of change shatter packs as much as possible. So we're running that with Cold Pen to have more pen once we actually do proc Herald of Ice. Cold Infusion to get more damage out of it, and then Ice Bite as well to get more damage on Herald of Ice once it actually does go ahead and proc. Then we're running Cast on Crit with Hive Winner, so this way we can proc it, because we're always critting with this build. we can go ahead and proc Eye of Winter to inflict that crit weakness to get, like I said, basically a 100% chance to actually crit an enemy. Because what critical weakness does basically is each stack of it, which we can have 20, will give 0.5% to critical hit chance, and that applies to the base. So at max stacks, we have 10% more chance on our base to critically strike, which everything from the tree, our skill, and this, we have about a 23% base crit chance, which is absolutely insane. Once you mix in all of our increases and all that to crit, we are sitting at easily like a 80 to 90% chance or more chance to actually crit an enemy, which is massive. Then we're running Alchemist Boon. This just gives us more flash charges per second to really help mitigate the 3 flash charges consumed when using Shattering Concoction. And then we just have Precision on it to give us more accuracy rating, and that pretty much sums up the gems. Now for the gear, we are running Widow Hail. This just allows us to get way more bonuses from our equipped quiver. Now if you can get a Corrupted to have like 3 rune sockets, you can throw in the increased elemental damage with attack, soul cores, or if you can get like 300% increased bonuses from the equipped quiver on like a Corrupted Widow Hail, that is even better. Running that with a quiver that gives plus level of all projectiles, we can get like 7 to 8 levels out of our quiver, which gives the Shatter Concoction skill so much more DPS. Looking for that in like crit chance, increased damage with bow skills, critical damage bonus, attack speed, projectile speed, any stuff like that on top of the quiver is a really nice bonus. If you can get on a visceral quiver, it's the even better, and it's like the cherry on top. But if you can't get on a visceral quiver, as long as you can get some of those mods on a decently rolled tier, that is what you're looking for. For our helmet, we're basically just going full ES, so we're running a Wicker Tiara, which is a really good base. Going for res capping, then we are running the Keith Remnant, basically body armor to give us really good amount of energy shield. Again, just going for spirit because we need about 190. If you take off precision, it's about 180 spirit. So we're running spirit on our body armor to accommodate that. Still getting reses. For our gloves, we want to be looking for reses, but we want to also have attack speed and crit damage if we can on them. This will give us a lot more DPS for the build. For our shoes, again, just high move speed, res boots is really going to help. And then going for a fine belt will actually give us more flash charges, which really helps mitigate all of the mana consumptions that we have from a Shattering Concoction. And then obviously if you can get like +1 to charms, as well as trying to keep your reses cap, that's even better on top of all of that. For our rings, we're going for increased cold damage to give this skill a lot more damage, as well as int, because we do need about 150 int to actually use cast on crit and stuff like that. So that's why we get double int on our rings. Still looking for reses and trying to build as much chaos reses on top of our rings to give us more tankiness into the later game maps. But like I said, if we do swap and get a little bit more ES, we can go chaos inoculation, and then we don't have to worry about any type of chaos res because we'll be immune to chaos damage. Then for our amulet, we're looking for spirit, plus level to all projectiles. If you can get 3, it's massive. And then anything else is really an added bonus on there, like crit damage, chance, energy shield, stuff like that would really help it. We're also going to allocate it with Ancient Aegis, which you can just have any distilled emotions, and then you just click them and it pops the window out. You'll throw your amulet, and then a combination of 3 distilled emotions in there will give you the passive on the tree to be allocated onto your necklace or amulet. So that's how you kind of do that. And we want to allocate Ancient Aegis on our amulet to give us 60% more energy shield from equipped body armor, which is massive, and it really does help with the survivability of the build. Now, I don't normally talk about flasks, but you do want to get a mana flask with charges gained per second. This really does help mitigate the charges consumed once we use Shatter Concoction, and it allows us to get a lot more uses out of the skill. Pretty much having all this, we have like infinite uses of the skill now, or at least very high rate, especially when mobbing. We never run out of charges, so that's why getting a charge gain per second on your mana flask is massive. Now we can get into the tree. So first we're going to get into the Ascendancy, and like I said, this is a Pathfinder and not a Deadeye. So first you're going to want to go into your Shattering Concoction skill. Then you want to grab your Traveler Wisdom for +5 passive points to use on the skill tree, which is massive. It allows us to path a lot more and get a lot more skills for free. Then we're going to grab Connected Chemistry. This basically gives us more flash charges gain, and the one previous to it, and the minor one, is even more flash charges gain, which again helps us get a lot more charges to be able to accommodate the skill's actual consumption. And then Enduring Elixirs, this is really huge because this allows us to basically no removed effect on our life flask, meaning that like we can use our life flask, and once we hit 100%, it'll still continue to fill. So we can actually go this and combo this with Eternal Youth, allowing our Life Flask to instead apply to Energy Shield. So this way we can kind of keep using it for our Energy Shield to keep popping it off and keeping it topped. From there, we're just going to path normally to hone Instincts for projectile speed and attack speed and stuff like that, and Avowal Wounds. This is a really nice DPS increase, especially since we're always inflicting enemies with elemental ailments, so it's just 33% more damage. Then we're going in and grabbing this huge Quiver node cluster. This is going to give us one more level, basically, if we have a +2 level on our Quiver for free. Once we get all these nodes, which is absolutely massive for the build and definitely gives Shattering Concoction a lot more DPS. Since we are taking Enduring Elixirs on our Ascendancy, we can come down and grab Cooked. This gives us more crit damage during any flask effect. And since our flask, like I said, doesn't stop once we are actually topped off, we can continue to take effect of this on bosses and other stuff for a long time, which gives us a ton more DPS. Then we're going down and taking Catalyst for more elemental damage with attacks, taking Send and Deliver because we are basically point blank with this, so we get just more free damage and critical damage bonus, which is massive. Then we're taking Maiming Strike just for the increased attack damage, and the chance to maim isn't that bad as well. Again, since we are doing Shocked Ground Tech with Ball Lightning, Lightning Warp, and we are weapon swapping, we can easily just go ahead and weapon swap into stuff like Frazzle to get more magnitude of shock. So this way we can get a bigger DPS increase on the enemy once they're shocked, which they always are because Shocked Ground has a 100% chance to do that. Then we're going to come down and take Acceleration for the move speed and skill speed. And then since we can't really path up, or we're not pathing, I should say, to like Falcon Technique or that area, we're going to take Falcon Dive. This is going to give us 1% increased attack speed per 250 accuracy rating. So this does give us some increased attack speed, not as much as Falcon Technique, but we're still going to get some out of it, and it definitely feels better with Falcon Dive to use the skill, mob, and stuff like that. Then we're coming up and we're taking this huge crit cluster, so Heartbreaking, Heart Stopping, and Struck Through. These are going to give us a lot more crit damage and crit chance, especially Heart Stopping with the +10 to Intelligence helps get the build to that 150 int requirement to use it. Then coming Calamity gets more cool damage while we have Herald of Ice active, which we always do. And then actually getting stuff with unarmed attacks, so like increased damage with unarmed attacks and stuff like that, gives us more damage with the skill. So we're actually going to take this node and go into Flurry to get more area effect and attack speed. And this gives us a lot more DPS with the skill. Then we're taking Throat Seeker for more crit damage, and since we already have an insane crit chance pool, that 20% reduced crit chance doesn't even bother us at all. From there, like I said, we're going to take an Eternal Youth, and then we're going to take in this other whole crit cluster, so True Strike, more crit chance and dex, which is nice. For the Jugular, more crit damage and 10 intelligence, which is really nice to get that 150. And then all these other ones, like all these damage on critical small nodes, and then Deadly Force, gives us more damage if we've critically hit an enemy in the past or recently. So it is huge. We're gonna get like 70% increased damage if we've dealt a crit recently, basically, and that applies a lot more DPS to the skill. Plus the increased crit chance is nice to like off balance Throat Seeker. From there, we're gonna keep going up and taking Thin Ice because we get 50% increased damage with hits against frozen enemies, which we're perma freezing like bosses and enemies and stuff, so it's just way more DPS. And then once we get up here, we're going to take Patient Barrier. This is going to give us a lot more increase in max ES. And then once we get to this spot, we're going to actually weapon swap technique again to Power Connection to give more increased magnitude of shock. And since we are doing, like I said, that combo, Lightning Warp and Ball Lightning, we get like a 57% shock on the enemy, which is huge, and it gives us a lot more DPS with Shattering Concoction. And then we're going to go ahead and take Glaciation for damage pen against cold res. And then that increased cold exposure is nice since Shattering Concoction inflicts cold exposure on hit. And then Endless Blizzard gives us another level into the skill to give us even more DPS. And then taking this whole top kind of cluster over here, Enhanced Barrier, gives us a lot more energy shield. And then that +1 max all LE res is definitely nice. Gives us a little bit more damage reduction, which is definitely helpful. Then coming down and taking Storm Charge gives us more elemental damage if we've done a crit. Plus giving 20% increased crit chance is nice to offset the other stuff we're taking to reduce it. And then All Natural again is just a free +5 to all elemental reses, which is really nice. And then 30% increased elemental damage gives us a lot more DPS to the skill. That basically covers it for the tree. For your jewels, you're just going to want to look for stuff with like attack speed, elemental damage, projectile damage. If you can get like increased damage with bows is nice. Or if you can get increased bonuses gained from equipped quiver, that's going to give the build a ton more DPS. But that's pretty much it. That wraps up everything. Went over the gems, the gear, the tree, the jewels, and kind of what you want to do and look at. The playstyle for the build is really simple. Just run around and shoot your flask out. If you're on a boss, you want to ball lightning warp, throw down hypothermia, and then just shattering concoction them and they'll die within seconds. It's a really easy playstyle, and like I said, you can easily get the build started for only a few divines, and you can really start blasting through maps and bosses with ease. I really am enjoying the build. I think you guys will too. If you did enjoy the video, or if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, you consider hitting that subscribe button, liking the video. It helps me out a ton, and honestly, that is really the best way to support me. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, depending when you're watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.